Welcome to the Arcade and Pinball Podcast for everybody, episode number 4.
That's right, number 4.
What's going on, B?
Going on? It's going well, man. Happy New Year.
Oh, Happy New Year.
Yes,
I'm so happy for 2025.
Yeah.
It's the year of peace.
No drama, no war, just peace and fun.
Just peace and fun. So today we're going to be talking about the 2025 predictions, the rumors we've cataloged, and so we've scoured the internet and found it only the most interesting that we find interesting in the pinball space. We want to talk a little bit the home arcade community. Some people are timid. They're like, "Oh, $10,000 for a machine," right? You've heard this recently. You said you had a comment on one of your videos.
Yeah, there's somebody that is very anti the price establishment that these pinball communities or pinball companies have been setting the bar at, that they refuse to buy any of these machines until the prices come down. But I don't know if that's going to be a realistic, a thing this year. But the whole point is that you can enjoy the hobby for a single dollar.
That's right.
And maybe driving to a local location. So hopefully you can tell the people how to do that.
Yeah, we're going to walk through that before we get into the prediction rumors, just try to give back and help out. And the other thing I want to say, there's a lot of people. I was like this. I think, B, you were like this. You got Star Wars because you're like, oh, Star Wars is my favorite pin. So you're going there going like, ooh, if I were to buy one pinball, what would it be? And you start reaching for the nostalgia. You're like, it's got to be the theme. It's got to be the theme. But what if the game sucks? It's your theme, but the game sucks. What can you do about that? Are you
speaking to me? Are you saying Star Wars is a great theme, but a terrible pinball machine?
That's correct. That's correct. That is exactly what I'm saying.
I've had people tell that to me, and it's okay. It's nostalgic. It still hits my nostalgia bones. I still like it. I don't think I get rid of it.
Yeah, but if they came out with a new one in 2025 or 2026, would you swap that one out? If it was a 10 times better game, it's Godzilla level great?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I would do possibly a trade at that point, but it's not something that
for sure.
Yeah, I'm not a pinball buyer anymore. I don't think so. I don't think I can justify currently the market price of purchasing pinball machines personally anymore, because now I've found places to play and I love supporting operators. I love the community to get out there and play. So it's like a twofold thing. I think about it, right? It's $1 a play. How long would it take you to play 9,600 or 10,000 times?
A very long time,
right? To make it worth owning it. It's a long time. I can get satisfaction pumping $20 every couple of months, and I think it's fine. So, but the thing I've been doing actually lately, I found a pinball club. I joined a pinball club, Justin.
That's amazing. Yeah, tell us about your pinball club.
$60 a month. It's Pinball Wizards, and they host it at this place called I Need a Miracle Tickets in Long Beach. It used to be like a ticketing agency, and they didn't have regular business all the time, so they converted it into a pinball museum as well. I think they're up to 30 machines there.
Wow.
And $60 a month. And it's all you can play. And if you don't have a membership, you can go for a single day, and it's $10 or $10, $15, and $10 an hour or $15 for the whole day type of thing. So you get your money's worth if you go. But they got the latest titles. They got a Metallica, they got an X-Men Premium. They have a couple of Jersey Jackson there. So they're getting premium titles. They have the freaking Galactic Tank Force tank.
Oh, the tank one, the limited edition.
And they have some classic games too. So there's a pinball league there. So a pinball club is a fun little option as well. But anyways, you don't have to do that. $1 is all it takes to enjoy the hobby.
That's right. And in my area, we have happy hour on Sundays.
Ooh, nice.
So it's 50 cents. Super. So you can play all the great games. And Buffalo Bill, he's here. He said he just got an Elton John. Such a great game.
Yes.
What do you think of that game?
Dude, Elton John is definitely, I would say, the best Jersey Jack game that I've played. Even though Avatar just came out, Elton John, from the theme integration, the shots and the flow and the fun factor, it's super fun.
Thumper says this is the best pinball podcast show he's seen all year.
All year?
All year.
Yes. Yes.
That's fantastic. We did it. We finally made it. We finally made it. All right, let's do a rapid fire real quick. So if you're new to pinball, Pinside Top 100. If you go to pinside.com, it's a fantastic website to give you details and information about every machine that's ever come out on pinball. So if you are into the Act Games virtual pinball machine, many of the Williams titles that are coming out in 2025, there's all this information about those games right here on Pinside. .com. So here's the suggestion. Go to pinside.com. Go look at the top 100. Have you played these games? So I'm going to go through the list real quick. B, as I scroll down, tell me the game you have not played. Godzilla, Jurassic Park, Medieval. You've played all those, right?
I played all of those, yes.
Monster Bash, Iron Maiden, Deadpool, Elvira, Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, I have played Lord of the Rings. Yes, I have.
Elton John, Twilight Zone.
Top 10? Wow, okay.
It's pretty good.
That's
The
new.
Big Lebowski. You said you played that, right?
Oh,
I have not
love
played
Lebowski.
that one.
Lebowski's fun if you can find it.
Pirates of the Caribbean, Final, Foo
I don't
Fighters.
think I've played a Pirates JJP.
They had it in Vegas. Didn't we play it in Vegas? I think so.
Okay, maybe. Yeah, I think so. Maybe that could have been it. All right.
Yep.
Metallica, Rush.
Batman's. We played that together. That was good.
Yes. Batman
Tales from the Arabian Night. Yeah. Pinball Party, Scared Stiff, Theater Magic, Tron. A lot of these I played with you, in fact.
I don't think I played a working Simpsons Pinball Party. I know I've seen it at the Pinball Hall of Fame in Vegas. I don't know.
I have not played Rick and Morty.
Oh, I have played a Rick and Morty. That one.
Okay, let's see if we can find yours that you haven't played. Circus Vartel, of course.
Yeah.
Whitewater, Dialed In, The Walking Dead. Yeah. You play Alice Cooper's? I haven't played that one.
I don't think so. I've not played Alice Cooper.
All right. So anyway, just a quick demonstration. If the answer is have not played, many of these games that are in the top 10 came out recently. Godzilla's a newer release, Jurassic Park, and you'll be able to find those. But where would you go to find those games?
Yeah.
What's your number one place? I'm sure I have a tab.
You do. I mean, Pinball Map is one of the saving graces in the pinball community that doesn't exist, for regular arcade, like our, hobby fans, right? Like you can't look up and where am I going to play Street Fighter in the wild, right? But Pinball Map has every single pinball machine, and the community that keeps us updated is very, very accurate of keeping their local locations up to speed. And you can see the location by zip code, by city, the number of machines in that given area, even the single locations with one pub table with the game. Those are fun to just see if there's a rare table out there. So I often find myself whenever I travel looking at Pinball Map.
That's right. Yeah, if you're going on a little trip, right? This one has Attack from Mars. It's pretty good. Yeah, so you can go there. Another thing we want to mention, if you're from the home arcade space and you're really interested, there was a comment on one of the shows I was on. They're like, of the Williams games, which one of these should I play? Other than they've heard of Medieval Madness, but they haven't heard of the other ones. And so if you go look at these, my point is cross-reference this stuff, because these old Williams games were real machines.
Yeah. I remember playing on the Legends pinball machine, it'd be just Zen tables, right? And I remember playing the heck out of Creature from the Black Lagoon before I've ever touched the real one, but it helped me learn the rule set and was like, okay, when I found a real one, I was like, I kind of know how to play this game. So it is fun to experience it. And even just from a casual competitive standpoint, because the best thing about playing online is those leaderboard tournaments, right? It helps you want to play and learn the game. And then when you find one in the wild, it's a great training tool.
Yeah. And so as you get more familiar with these, if you are on Pinball Map and maybe you're traveling for a business trip or a vacation, you can look in the area. And I remember we went to Okoboji last year. I think it was last year. Yeah. And there was a few in the area that I hadn't played, and I went and checked it out.
Yeah.
There was one that's on this list that a lot of people were like, I don't really like that game. But I played it at Pinball Expo. I thought it was awesome. It's Black Rose. Have you played that one?
Yeah. Is that the pirate one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's got the center rail on it.
And it pops up and then shoots a cannon from the thing. I played it at Expo and I was like, it was so fun. Yeah. Black Rose.
Yeah, so when I was at Expo, I had kind of had this list of all these games from the Pinside Top 100 that I haven't played fresh in my head. And as I walked along, I'm like, haven't played it. I was just trying to check that off.
Safecracker coming? Oh, I hate and love that game. I told you about that game, right?
Yeah, you told me about it. It's smaller, right?
It is. It's smaller table, and it's you have a ball timer. You don't have 3 balls. So they have Safecracker here.
Oh, right. It's a kind of like a little different mix of how to play a pinball game, right?
Yeah,
it doesn't follow the same rules.
Correct. Oh, and this is the one that has the Tomb Raider pinball on it. So you got a lot of stuff in here. I'm looking at this for the first time, super deeply. This is a great lineup of stuff. This would make
This is when it gets hot right here. Come on. Medieval Madness, Junkyard, The
Yeah.
Getaway, then Black Rose, Theater of
Mhm.
Magic. I haven't really played the Party Zone.
Yeah. I gotta check
Funhouse, yeah.
my Zen PS. I have FX3 and I have a lot of these tables already, but I haven't played it in a long time. But yeah, it's a good way to experience some of these older games that you can't find a lot of these on location. So playing on the virtual versions of them, it's good stuff.
It's good stuff. So now we're going to jump into the 2025 pinball predictions. Now, the first one we're going to go through, it's not really a prediction because Stern has already teased it, right? We know it's coming. The title has been announced, but we don't know the details of it. And I'm hoping that at the end of 2025, we can go through this prediction list. We'll come back and I'll see what we predicted. We'll see how accurate we were.
Yeah, maybe if we do like by episode, if how many weeks are in a year? Like 54?
52?
52? So you think we'll get to like maybe 40 episodes by the end of the year?
Yeah, probably. Because
all right,
we'll probably skip a few weeks, I'm sure.
Okay, so by episode 40, we'll come back.
Episode 40 or something like that.
That'll be the goal.
And as a reminder, if you haven't hit that subscribe button or you want to resubscribe to Console Kits, go ahead and do so. And this show rotates because we're weird like that.
Super weird.
So next week we'll be on B Kong's channel, and this week we just find it. I think it's a good way to do it.
Next week will be a special episode because we'll be together.
That's right.
In person.
Right?
We'll be in Vegas at CES, so we'll get to see some of these early predictions.
And I think Angelo P will be there too.
Yeah, Angelo P will be there. And Thumper Squid was asking for me to put my D&D costume on. That may happen next week. So that may happen next week while I was there. I was actually like before the D&D rumors, and I'm just talking about it. Like I was planning on bringing it just in case they like hadn't announced it yet. But now that I know, I'm like, I got to pack it. Actually,
you got to do it, huh?
I got to do it. I'm bringing it.
Pretty excited.
Yeah, it's good.
That is not what I wanted. Let's get B out of here. No, this is what I want. Okay, so let's jump right into the first one. What will we see from Stern? We're going to kind of go through the manufacturers. Now, of course, these are not like necessarily predictions that B and I have solely came up with. There's a lot of rumors on the internet by different content creators. We've heard those content creators talk about it. And we're like, yeah, it sounds legit and it would be exciting. So they made the list. It's not like we're just guessing, they're going to come out with Back to the Future or something like that, right?
Yeah. There's been a lot of talk from all of these companies. So you put together a really cool deck. So what are we going to see from Stern?
Okay. So first we have, and I want to get a shout out to Kerry Hardy. He put together a video recently talking about if you increase, this is what he did, was he increased the video exposure on the little teaser. And this was new to me because when I saw that Dungeons and Dragons was coming out, and we saw it had, like, as Michael B calls it, this big, gigantic head. And I don't know if it's going to be gigantic. I'm really curious about that. But anyway, Kerry Hardy increased the video exposure and said, you see, it's got 3 targets underneath. I only saw the 3 arrows, the what are they called again?
Like
the shots?
Yeah. Like drop targets or?
No, not the targets themselves, but the triangle light that's yellow.
I think they're just kind of like target indicators or something like that.
But he was like, he thinks that it's a target that you would hit and the whole thing lowers like Attack from Mars. I was like, no, this is going to be a dragon. Like
the dragon, right?
That's what he's saying.
Yeah.
Now, why is it that Brian Eddy doing a machine at all is even interesting? Kind of hand it over to you if you can kind of see where I'm going with this.
Yeah, so Brian Eddy, if you look at the list of titles you've put on there, and that's a young Brian Eddy, by the way, that you got there because we met him in person, and so
he's got more blonde, grayish hair now.
A little bit older, but that prime time Eddie that you see in that picture right there was the designer of Attack from Mars and Medieval Madness, some of the best games ever made. They continually if you looked at that Pinside Top 100, the top 5 consistently, Attack from Mars, Medieval Madness. I think Medieval is probably slightly higher than Attack from Mars. And, I also want to just go back to the Pinside Top 100. Where are they at right now? So look, back to back, 3 and 4, Brian Eddy games.
That's Brian Eddy. So, that's Brian Eddy from the 90s.
90s, right? And not his Stern titles. But the other thing I just want to mention about the top 100, before I owned pinball and I got into it, like I used to look at this as a place of like, oh, what are games I should play that are considered like the best? But this is also, I don't think it's a very personalized, like pinball is a very personal hobby, right? You kind of can like what you like without having to follow this list exactly because everybody has what they like. And a lot of this almost sometimes has to do with like resale value and value of a pinball machine and how it gets rated.
Right.
Because owners can self rate certain games higher. But there are some continual contenders that stay in the top 10. So I say that because Attack from Mars, Medieval Madness, no matter how things come and go, these titles continually tend to stay in the top 5 because they're that good.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That is correct, my sir. So we come back to here. We have, Brian Eddy. He works for Stern now, and he's come out with Mandalorian, Venom, and Stranger Things.
Mm-hmm.
And these are not the games that are in the higher top 10. So Brian Eddy did these amazing things back in the Bally Williams era. These are games that are also on Zen, and you can play them on the At Games Legend Pinball.
Mm-hmm.
Attack from Mars and Medieval Madness. But these newer ones are not as highly successful as his previous games. So, I think everyone's hoping that Brian Eddy, he's the designer behind Dungeons and Dragons, the new game that's coming out at CES, which we will get to play next week as they reveal it there. I think everyone's hoping for a banger game from Brian. Like, wouldn't it be amazing if Dungeons and Dragons ends up being in that top 10, and it's like, oh, finally he did it. Attack from Mars, Medieval Madness, and Dungeons and Dragons, again, like, no one wants this guy to lose, right?
Yeah, you kind of mentioned that, like, what if this is a Medieval Madness 2.0, right? It has a lot of the elements to be able to do that. And the thing about Dungeons and Dragons, if you're not familiar with the franchise itself, it gives you, there's no prescriptive way to set a story because it really benefits from everybody being able to create their own story. So it could be anything, right? And the Tyrant's Eye, whatever it's called, it is a brand new campaign, right? This is not based off of any other
is that right?
story that I've seen, right? Because there's campaigns that exist. I'm currently playing a campaign called like the Dungeon of the Mad Mage or something like that. And so there's pre-set games that have like existed over time that dungeon masters can pick up, but I think this is an original story, right? And it's still set in the world of D&D, where obviously you're fighting a giant dragon as one of the main villains. So I'm excited to see the story as it unfolds and how they incorporate, some of the elements of D&D. Are you a D&D fan at all? Or you know any of the lore of how it works at all?
Only from Big Bang Theory and Community.
But so the thing is, like, D&D whether you've played it or not, because it's when it began, right, in the 70s, like, it created these classes of characters, but so much in popular culture has been based off of the basic orcs and goblins and skeletons and barbarians and dwarves and elves. And like, you've seen it. If you watch Lord of the Rings and kind of those things, you'll feel right at home with this lore. It's not going to be super unfamiliar unless you get into the really weeds of like how dice play works. I did see that they use let's get ready to roll with the D20 dice. So that's very key. I finally found out that like the D20 dice, it's significant because as a character, that determines your actions, whether or not you succeed or fail for pretty much everything. So like you're playing a game and then, the dungeon master describes a room and you're like, oh, like, is there any monsters in here? And then he would be like, give me a perception check, roll your D20. And if your perception check, if you roll a D20 and if it's 12 or higher, which is higher than whatever the thing is, he tells you whatever it is. And if it's not, then it's like, no, you get attacked. So it's a probability system and your character has ways to increase the level. So you roll a D20 with the 12, but you have a +5 on perception. Now you get a 17 score. So it can get complicated, but the basics, the whole game is based off of a D20 dice. If you attack, you roll a D20. Are you going to hit them or not? Like, that's the simple game. If that was too complicated. Is that too complicated?
I mean, I think I followed enough. And I think there's some theories out there that this game may lean into that because Brian Eddy and Dwight Sullivan worked together on Venom, which had the leveling system. So there's these theories that with Insider Connect, you could... there's this idea of like maybe you could create a character in the game, like you choose, which I think is cool, but I don't know if dealers would appreciate, like, you walk up to a machine, swipe your card, and you could spend forever in this menu and you haven't even started your game yet.
Yeah.
But maybe you could do that where you scan you scan, and then
And
you
that's
can
your
go ahead and
character.
play, but you can always adjust your character's costume or whatever it
Like,
is
later
on your
on.
phone, right?
Oh, that would be so cool.
That
Like,
would
if
be
it
great.
really is the memory of, like, your character in that quest.
Right.
Oh, that would be
Because it'd be
bad.
kind of like Venom,
That would be
right?
so cool. Yeah, yeah, for sure. Because
So that's what a lot of people are doing, are saying, okay, Brian Eddy, what has he done before? Attack
Mhm.
from Mars, Medieval Madness. So
Yeah.
everyone's hoping that this is a spiritual successor. I've
Mhm.
been thinking, well, it's Medieval Madness because it's like dungeons and stuff like that, like a castle, type of
Mhm.
thing. But what Carrie Hardy is kind of pointing out is like maybe this is actually more like Attack from Mars
Mhm.
because of the 1 second clip that we have. It appears to be a center target, more like
Shooting.
Attack from Mars, with 3
Yeah.
targets you have to hit that
Mhm.
potentially could lower and
Mhm.
go under the dragon. So imagine instead of there being a spaceship on Attack from Mars,
A
it's a
dragon is
dragon.
hovering.
Yeah,
Yeah, that makes sense. Jason was saying it's inserts.
inserts.
That's exactly what it was that we
That's
were
right.
trying. We're not pinball folks. We don't know what we're talking about, you know? Um,
That's right. So here's
yeah.
the idea, right? Like
Yeah.
this is the idea. It could be that Brian Eddy once again is dipping into his history like he did for Stranger Things.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. I forgot to mention that. Did it? No, I got Stranger Things logo on there. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Maybe this is just another. Will it be a similar layout? I don't know. We'll find out, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, it's very Brian Eddy now that you point that out with the video exposure of the drop targets there. And like, I guess that's going to be the main critical feedback because people saw the dragon immediate was like, is it a possibility that it spits it out or eats it in some
I
capacity? But
know, right?
I
If you
don't know
look
if
at it,
this
I have a picture on that. So here is so the T-Rex eats the ball,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Look at the bottom jaw. You
yeah.
can see it's basically a ball ramp. So that
Mm-hmm.
ball can magnetically be caught and
Mm-hmm.
not chip any teeth.
Mm-hmm.
But the dragon has teeth.
Dragon has teeth, but it has that weird like thing on the inside though.
It's
So
possible. It's possible. This
yeah,
does look metal.
yeah,
Do you kind of see it where there's like little guards there? Now, is it
yeah.
just for the light illuminating because it's it's
Light on the
breathing
inside.
fire?
Oh, maybe. Because why would they do that if it didn't? Like, why would the opening be? Maybe like it sucks it up and spits it out.
See,
Like maybe I don't
what I
know.
think would be cool is it
Yeah.
ball. This is going to turn into a gate, right? It's like the dragon doesn't spit the ball. You had one chance and
Yeah,
you
one
ruined it.
chance.
But
Yeah.
it would be cool if there's like a ball lock. Like
Yeah.
imagine you hit the 3 targets and then it
Yeah.
drops and then you ball lock and then it gives you another ball. You ball
Oh,
lock.
but it breathes fire. Is
Breathes fire. That's
the
the
ball that
multi-ball.
so it doesn't eat the ball, but you
It
lock it, and
spits the
then
ball.
that makes a lot of sense. I think
Or
that
it doesn't do any of that. It just
I
screams at you.
probably. I mean, it definitely moves. In the premium, it's going to move. On the pro, it's probably not. But I mean, why would else would
Probably.
it be there? And it's going to be that large, right? I think it can shoot out of there. I'm hoping that it does. Like, let's just hope because that's going to be the first criticism anybody says that
Right.
Dragon does not eat ball.
Yeah, and so I'm hoping that's why I did the side by side. If you look at the ratio of the eyeballs
Mhm.
for T-Rex and the eyeball for the dragon and then the mouth,
Mhm.
maybe this is a similar scale to the T-Rex, which the T-Rex can accommodate a ball.
Yeah, Jason's like he's no fire, no bite, right? Like, but I think that makes sense. Catching it and then multi-ball dragon fire,
Because
that
it
would
can
be a
turn
moment.
its head, right, and kind of
Yeah,
shoot it at
that
different locations.
that would be a moment, I think
Yeah.
so. Like, because you're kind of escalating to a boss battle. That's the whole point of Dungeons and Dragons in any RPG. Like, you're kind of like leveling up, you're fighting regular monsters, and when you get to the final boss, you battle the boss, right? And then how many dragons are you going to be beating at this time? In Attack from Mars, it's like stacking through different cities. In
right.
Stranger Things, it's like the different waves of demigorgons. There's multiple dragons. There's multiple things you can do. Would you rather have like the bashing in Attack from Mars, or would you rather have kind of like that castle element that Medieval Madness has? Like, what do you think between the two? From a
I was
bash?
kind of hoping this would be more like the Medieval Madness because
Mhm.
Stranger Things was already kind of the spiritual successor to
Mhm.
Attack from Mars.
Right.
And then, but then there's also a weird thing. 2025,
Mhm.
Chicago Gaming Company is supposed to re-release Medieval Madness. It would be really odd if Brian Eddy basically recreates his old game, Medieval Madness, rethemed, as Dungeons and Dragons, and
Mhm.
Chicago Gaming Company releases his old game again.
Yeah.
I don't know if it really matters. It's just a perception of what games are coming out in 2025. If two of them are too similar, it'd be like, well, what's happening? Right?
Yeah. I'm hoping that the dragon is not straight up the center, but maybe like off to the side in one of
Could
the
be.
corners. And
We
then
don't
that
know,
way it
right?
changes it up a little bit. We'll find out on Monday, coming up soon.
I
We're actually on Friday, right?
Oh,
Aren't they
that's
doing
right.
it?
It's Friday.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
in 2 days.
Yeah,
People could
2
be
days.
watching this and the information's already released.
It's out there.
All right, so the next prediction or the next rumor that we're going to be talking about is Jack Danger's game, right?
Yes, Jack Danger does all of these titles.
So Keith Elwin, the history behind him, he was a tournament player, actually. He does not have a list of games that reaches back to the 90s. He's a newer pinball designer, but he's created most of the monster games. He's kind of the king of the monsters with
now that you say
Jaws,
it.
Jurassic Park, and Godzilla. He
Yeah.
has some other games, but all three of these are huge hits.
Yeah, absolutely. So he's Jaws is still getting up there, but no, just kidding. Godzilla and Jurassic Park also continually in the top 5 on pin side of all time. So I mean, between Brian Eddy and Mr. Elwin here, you have some of the best pinball designers collectively in the community that consider these guys top tier. So I'm excited for King Kong. I mean,
Yeah.
Kongs are us. Like this.
There you go.
Yeah.
And then I was listening to a podcast. Joel did a podcast on he was interviewing Keith Elwin. And I was watching it today. It's like 3 months old. I watched it back when it came out, but I was like for some reason watching it again today. And Keith Elwin was saying, talking about Jaws, that they have a secret mission, like that's going to only be unveiled when the 1.0 code comes out for Jaws, like maybe it's a mini wizard mode or something like that, or wizard mode. But I was hearing that, I was like, man, there's still more. Jaws is already an amazing game.
Yeah.
There's still more to come.
Has it got to 1.0 code yet?
No.
Okay, and it's been a year. That's probably like the downside for Stern, I would say, right? Is that for them to get their games fully what they envision them to be, like it takes a long time. So.
True, but Jaws jumped into the 90s, the 0.9 pretty quickly, and they were aggressively releasing things, and a lot of them were like, now you have this wizard mode, and you can go directly to it, the 4th of July. So they released, at CES 2024 is when we first played Jaws, and then before July 4th, they did the July 4th. And then they did the video game that you can play where you actually play as a shark and get the beachgoers.
Revenge of Jaws is so much fun. I love that mode.
So I don't like still some other mode that hasn't been. Go ahead.
I was saying I don't like paying to play that mode, but when I've played it it's at my friend's house that has it, that's a fun one to play over and over again. Yeah.
It's got great music too. Very 8-bit themed.
Yeah.
The next one is Keith Elwin. That's right. No. So Jack Danger, he also has supposedly Pokemon is potentially another title. Is that something that you ever got into?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up a Pokemon fan when it was a big craze, right? Original Pokemon, and Jack Danger seems about that age range that kind of he would have resonated with something like this for a while. And Pokemon is a national phenomenon. When you think about Stern trying to reach a mass market appeal, I mean, Dungeons and Dragons, 50 million players, Pokemon, also a really huge title as well too. This would bring in a ton of the younger audience to come out and play Pokemon. In fact, even the Pokemon homebrew at Expo was one of the most popular titles to play. So yeah, I was excited to hear this would be, again, if the lore of Pokemon has a lot of ways you can go, right? Are you the trainer? Are you playing against them? There's so many characters. But I think older pinball community may not be as excited for a theme that doesn't resonate with them, because this is definitely a 90s, late 90s theme.
Yeah. Now, Jack Danger, he's one of those, he was a Twitch streamer for a really long time, and then ended up joining the company. He did Jurassic Park Home Edition, that same one that's available at Costco now. He did the design of that game. Then he went on to do Foo Fighters. Some people were saying that, oh my gosh, Foo Fighters got put in the vault we talked about that on our last podcast.
Yeah, that was
But
fast.
Foo Fighters has been out for not very long, right?
Mhm.
And I was listening to Zach Monet's podcast, and he was saying his theory is, and he backed this up because he's a dealer. Foo Fighters sold really well,
Mhm.
and so his thought is, yeah, it actually makes sense that they would vault Foo Fighters because they saturated the market with Foo Fighters, meaning people purchased it
Mhm.
and they have to renew the license, and it actually makes more sense to just let the license elapse
Mhm.
because it's going to be very hard for them to sell more Foo Fighters
Than what
since
they've
they're
already sold.
already out there. You know,
Yeah.
everyone that wanted one pretty much got it.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. I mean, it was when the title came out, Foo Fighters, it was like February, March 2023, I think.
Mm,
So it hasn't been even a full 2 years since it's
wow.
been out, but it was got a lot of positive reception and it
Hmm.
stayed positive, right? Like it
Yep.
still continues to be like, this is still a great game from Jack Danger. It really kind of cemented him as like, this has a lot of cool, unique features, things that we hadn't seen, like the dead posts flipping up and
Yep.
things. So he's made some signature things. And, X-Men has had a little bit of a harder time. Like, I don't even know where X-Men is on Pinside. Isn't it like in the 50s? Isn't it down there?
Let me check.
Yeah.
Um, X-Men. Oops. The Uncanny X-Men is 52.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's going to be a rough one because it kind of came out with some issues, and Stern just released a video of how to do a hardware patch to it.
Mhm.
I was playing mine recently, and it's like, I'll probably reach out to my dealer and say, hey, I'd like to get the kit, and
Mhm.
they sent me one for Foo Fighters as well, which was just like there's an area where you need to put some Mylar.
Mhm.
They just sent out some Mylar, and they're like, hey, put the Mylar right here just to keep it from scratching the table at this one spot. Um, but it's all about there was three things they're doing on the Uncanny X-Men repair. They're putting in a red spring, so
Mhm.
just when you full plunge, you have a likelihood of making it all the way around. But they also made it where if you don't make it around, you can still get like
A skill shot or
a
something.
skill shot. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's also a piece of plastic that they are having you put in the right-hand corner of it just to kind of help that ball make it around the corner without losing friction, I believe is what it's
Mhm.
doing.
Yeah.
And then the third one kind of puzzled me. I'm not sure why they're doing it, but the right lane where the ball goes into the right flipper,
Mhm.
they're raising that by a few millimeters, and so there's the little black plastic stands that kind of
Mhm.
separate the screws and the actual screws themselves. They kind of lengthen that entire thing by a
Interesting.
few millimeters. Maybe I don't know why, but I've been playing mine, and I'm like, I can
It
still
works
make it
okay.
all the way around with a full plunge, and I have
Yeah.
it perfectly leveled. So I don't know. It's not really affecting me. This
The X-Men
X-Men.
Premium that I've been playing on location has trouble now with the figure eight shot. Like it'll go around the loop, but it won't get up that little ramp to come back around. And so it's like, I don't know if there's adjustments per machine that like sometimes it doesn't quite flow the way the original intention was. So it was an ambitious layout. So I'm hopeful that X-Men will continue to get better with code and
Yeah.
things like that. Because, I think when it first released, and as many Stern brand new pinball machines do, it started in the top 10. It was already
Yeah.
like in the ones or twos. People wanted to be holding that value, but people have not been so high on X-Men. So
Man, maybe
I
I'll make a
still like
video
it.
on it. I don't
I
have
still like
any
it.
of those issues. Like I can
Yeah.
hit yeah. Like
Yeah.
I'm
You
looking
know,
at it going, okay, this is such a great game because like the left ramp shot
mhm,
just as butter where it goes up and then
mhm.
it has to continue to have momentum
To come
when it
back
gets
down.
onto the wire form because the
Mhm.
wire form has a little hill, and if you don't have enough momentum it'll fall back the hill and go,
Correct. Yeah.
but it always like hits that and goes, I got you, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
which
Yeah.
slows the ball down and then it speeds back up and comes back around. And I'm just like, and then I've noticed recently the other thing, I'm getting better at the game. I'm still not getting like 200 million scores or anything like that, but
Mhm.
I can keep the ball going, and it's all about that. You got to go pap 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 pap. Like the moment the ball, and you got to be a little bit more precise the moment the ball hits the left flipper, it's going to swing around and hit your right one, and you got to get ready to kind of slow it down and swing it up, and it feels so good. The flipper play on X-Men is so good, but you got to be on your game to keep that ball alive.
Yeah, there's a lot of bumpers and things you can do. All right. What about Pokemon? Like, what are your predictions for what a Pokemon table could look like? Are you fans of this franchise at all? Like, any thoughts, predictions on what this would look like?
The only thought I have is there's not about the table, but just it could be another Insider Connect thing where you can collect Pokemons by, going, imagine if they, there's that, what is it called? Pokemon, a buddy of mine at work used to play
Pokemon Go?
Pokemon Go. Imagine if they're like, there's a whole bunch of Pokemons at the arcade. And so people go to collect the Pokemon Go, and it's at the machine.
Yeah. Like Pokemon Go, that phenomenon was beyond like the normal Pokemon player. Like
Really?
there's so many casual people that just picked that up. And like they were saying even like at hospitals with, kids that were like very depressed and really wanted to get them out and about, they would have them play Pokemon Go so they can get out of their beds and walk around the hospital and be like, this is curing kids with like, terminal illnesses, and they really need to like get out and do some work. So it was a phenomenon. And I can see that if they had this machine now is because the way they kept that game going was like on certain days, you go to this location and there'll be more of this golden Pokemon version of that thing. So like as you collect them, like it could be cool to see that. But it's a lot of dependency on Insider Connected being a hub for you to collect all your stuff. Same thing with Dungeons and Dragons, right? Like I don't know if they're going to be sophisticated enough for both of those titles to make these both like game collection things versus just like badges that you can kind of collect for certain things. But that would be interesting if you had to go to a location and like this week, you're going to do this. Like when I first heard of the John Wick, like we're going to send you like missions so you can go out and only the first 100 people are going to get this badge. Over the last 6 months, I've not cared anytime one of those missions have come out to be an assassin to go out and get that badge. Like, I don't know, it didn't really quite work
I did it the first time, but that's
like, I'm going to go get this assassination badge. No. Yeah. But it would be cool to see. I think the original 151 Pokemon, because there's so many versions of Pokemon that come out, I think it'll be based off of that. Those characters are the most iconic, your Pikachus, your Charizards, your Bulbasaurs, like those original characters. And maybe Mew or Mewtwo would be kind of like that main boss character that you're fighting. I think that could still be the one that is the most iconic version. I don't know if they would incorporate a lot of the newer series and things, because like Ash is not even in some of the newer Pokemon series. Like there's a new Pokemon series that's like a stop motion animation, and it's like Pokemon Concierge, and it's like a girl that's like at a Pokemon hotel with Psyduck, So I don't know if it's going to be like, hey, you can play Pokemon Sun and Moon and Red and all these things. Like, no, I think it's going to be based off of the original characters, and trying to keep it simple. You will be a Pokemon trainer trying to capture some of these iconic Pokemons, and then battling, maybe a rival trainer at some point that has a Pokemon battle. And then that would be cool, right? Maybe you do get into like trainer battles and gym battles where you're like fighting certain things. That would be the progression.
I like I think the simplicity would help the average player that's, because, you got to appeal. Like when we go to these tournaments, right? There's all these people that are like not really into Jaws, but they love the Jaws game because it's so welcoming and inviting. Or like Iron Maiden is one of those games where the theme, I don't know how many times I've heard it. They're like, oh, the theme is terrible. I don't really like that band, but the game is great. Like as long as the machine, the table itself is an awesome game, and it has to have that balance, because no one likes a game that's like super easy.
Yeah.
And then no one likes a game that's super hard. Very few people do that I know, but somewhere in that middle.
Here's my theory for the game.
Okay.
You start your game, you are going to pick your starting Pokemon, because that's how you start every single game of Pokemon. So you pick your starter Pokemon, and then from there, that's the Pokemon you're going to go with into battle. And so you're progressively going to go from city to city battling the gym leaders. And then those are going to be the bosses that have a certain Pokemon type. Your Pokemon that you pick, depending, because there's advantages and disadvantages against certain Pokemon types. So a water Pokemon is weak against lightning Pokemon, or vice versa. I forget one of those things. So depending on how you want to progress, you might be good at bosses 1 and 3, but it'll be harder to beat boss number 2 that gives a disadvantage against you, right? So that'll be kind of fun. And then you have 5 different gym bosses, and then you fight the Pokemon League champion. Like, it's a very simple matic formula that follows the game, but I can see that being like, all right, I'm going to pick Pikachu this time, and I'm going to fight these bosses, and you just go in progressive order. Like, I feel like that's a game.
Could be.
Could be.
We'll see. We'll see. We'll see if they even come out with it. And if they do, I'm going to...
think it's a 2025 game, though? Like, I know this is 25 predictions. Like,
so here's the idea, right? There's going to be 3 cornerstones in 2025. And so what has been highly, highly rumored is, obviously, we know Dungeons and Dragons is coming. That's been announced already. Highly, highly rumored that King Kong is number 2. So you got to pick a third game. And Pokemon is one of the other ones that's been heavily rumored. Then on top of that, Stern, we're still in Stern. We haven't even got to the other manufacturers yet. Then there's, what about the remakes? They could do 1 or 2 remakes, 5 total games in a single year. If this is true, it's going to feel like every 2 months or so, Stern has another release, has another release, has another release. And one of the strongest rumor is Tron, but more recently, Nap Arcade talked about someone sent him a photo of a whole bunch of, at a warehouse, they had the, what's it called? The ghost from Ghostbusters, the main green slime. Is his name?
Slimer.
Slimer. So they had, that toy. So the theory is, they're already stocking up for a Ghostbusters remake.
Yeah.
So that could be the lineup.
I'm looking at who designed it, and game designer for Ghostbusters was John Trudeau. I don't know his work too much, but the mechanics, Elliot Eisman has been, if you look at that old picture of, who their current game designers are, Eisman is now, he did John Wick. That was his first cornerstone. Do you think a designer has any relevancy on like the appeal of a pinball machine? Do you think it hurt John Wick that it was a new lead game designer versus like, an Elwin coming out with Kong or Brian Eddy? Like, we're talking about their history now. Like what do you think that lead game designer has?
One of the interviews were saying that George Gomez, who's the manager over there, he saw Elliot's original design of John Wick and he goes, "This sucks. Go back. Give it a second shot." And then they did another one, came up with this Whitewood. They tested it out and this game's pretty fun. Yeah. So, I mean, it sounds like he had a lot of control, and that's kind of how their company works. They're a little bit more waterfall in their design, where they have a lead designer. That's the dude. When I talked to Ray Day, he says that's how it works with code. It's like if Ray Day did all the port for Metallica, it was all him. He could ask other people to help out, but they were just helping out. He made all the shit. He made all the calls. A lot of the game adaptation that were in it was Ray Day making the decision of this is what Metallica's gonna do. Yeah. And that's from a game code adaptation.
Do you think you still need and I'll look up Tron in a second, but like for a Ghostbusters, if they're gonna remake it now, do they need the lead designer back involved? Because I know Borg was involved with Metallica and they had a different coder, but this is John Trudeau. I didn't know this was his lineup of stuff.
I don't think so. Here's I'm going to counter that question. When Chicago Gaming Company remade Attack from Mars and Medieval Madness, did Brian Eddy have to work at Chicago Gaming Company?
That's true, but that one was like more of a pure remake. Like the remastered of Metallica required some updated code because they went from the 4.1 DMD to the 16.
Yeah, well,
a little bit, right?
The original designer, the original code developer died.
Oh, right. So there was a new coder for Metallica. But look, John Trudeau did Creature and he did Black Rose and Judge.
Wow.
So I didn't know he was a designer for some of those things. And he has a long library, even as terrible titles like Q*bert's Quest on here. So
yeah.
But I don't know if he's still working with Stern on these latest ones, but that's pretty cool just to kind of see his history there. So I'm just curious if that's going to be the one. That would be cool.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know, right? Like it could be that when a designer does a game, it's there's some. Are they an employee or are they a contractor? And is it a licensing thing where they design the game, but then they're licensing the design? And it could be Brian Eddy had an amazing contract back with Bally Williams, probably not because the company folded and moved into what did it become? Warner Brothers or something? Maybe that's the IP.
Yeah,
But anyway, maybe he had a contract that when it gets remade, he gets
a
royalties.
little
I
bit.
don't. Yeah, could
Well,
be.
we do know that Borg is still
Hmm.
with Stern, and he was the one that designed Tron Legacy. So that kind of, like you were saying, makes a little bit more sense as somebody that's working could be a remastered from their old style into the new one. He just did it with Metallica, so it sounds like this would be right up his alley to do that again with Tron Legacy, which is it was I think people have this highly rated, right? Like, have you played a Tron Legacy?
Hmm.
Yeah, do you like it?
I think it was on one of the trips.
Mm-hmm.
I played Avatar.
Mm-hmm.
Not the. I played the old Avatar,
Mm-hmm.
and I played Tron. I think the same day, and I think I remember really enjoying Avatar more than Tron.
Yeah, Tron Legacy is listed as 35 on Pinside Top 100. So
Mm.
not bad, not bad.
Yeah,
Slightly ahead of Ghostbusters at 36. So these are
I've played a lot of Ghostbusters. They have one at one of the arcades, and we did it. We've only done one tournament. It's called Monsterama, and yeah, it was really fun to play Ghostbusters in a tournament.
yeah,
Because Cody,
rough game though.
who's the number one player in Iowa, like he got $1 billion on Ghostbusters. Oh,
Mhm.
they had a Ghostbusters in Ames as well, and he hit $1 billion on Ghostbusters as well. Like he knows like this special. He's the only one that I've seen do it, but I can't remember what it is. But if you hit these certain shots, once you get into this mode, you can just hit the ramp shot over and over and over. Like you just, and I watched him do it. He hit the ramp shot like 50 times in a row, and he keeps on stacking the multiplier or something like that. And just the points just went really high. But it was really cool because everyone was like cheering on. Is he going to get the shot again? And he did.
Yeah,
So Ghostbusters is fun. It's definitely got some cool
yeah,
shots.
beautiful machine, beautiful machine.
Hmm. Yeah, out of the two, my gut would be, the one that I'm not going to say buy. I'm going to say the one that I would hope that my local dealer gets. The local arcade operator gets is Ghostbusters.
Yeah, yeah. Between the two, I feel like Ghostbusters has more going for it. But like what Jason was saying here, like it's actually a rough game. It's like for me, it's hard to pick up because there's so much happening. Like Tron is like a little bit more simplistic, and I think people can pick it up and have more of a fun game with it. But Ghostbusters, the theme, the look of it is more of that like gorgeous, amazing playfield. It's really good stuff.
Yeah, I heard someone say that the Ghostbusters has a flaw where the flippers are actually too far apart. And so
Really,
if
so
they
the
do
graphic.
that's what I'd heard.
Yeah,
And so if they remake it, the question is,
yeah. Are they gonna
they'd
fix that
probably
later?
fix that if it's literally a
Possibly.
bug.
Design accident is what he's talking about. The flippers are further apart than intended.
Right.
So maybe
Right.
they'll fix it. What's
Yeah.
up, ED7? Good to see you. Happy New Year.
And maybe Jason's the one who told me that when we were at the expo.
maybe,
Could
maybe.
be.
All right, are we still talking Stern?
Let's see where we go. No, here we
Oh!
go. Spooky Pinball. The big rumor is Goonies. Hit one in the chat if you hoped that Spooky comes out with a Goonies. So this one would be really cool. But this is the thing that sucks about Spooky. No arcade operator in my area has bought a Spooky machine. And
For good reason. They break down kind of often. So
I'm really hoping. So the
yeah.
the old school pinball arcade that we have that's close to me.
Mhm.
I wonder if he would buy a Goonies. He might buy a Goonies.
Yeah.
Because I talked to him a while back and he goes, oh yeah, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Looney Tunes. The customer support seems to be better, but I don't think he liked those titles,
Yeah.
so he didn't pick it up. And that's one of those places that it's a pay to play,
Yeah.
and he's got some limited editions, and Goonies would go in really well there. And I would love
So
to
you
play
remember
that.
that Korean barbecue place, Ace Gogi?
Ace Gogi, yeah.
So Shane is a Spooky distributor. So he ends up getting like them at least to play in demo, on location before selling them. So he's been doing that, and he's also an American distributor too. So he has a Bart Barrios. So lucky to have an Ace Gogi around to play that. So he would be there. But in 2025, we're gonna get to play Evil Dead for the first time as well. It's not on location yet, so add that to the list. I mean, it's not a rumor, speculation, but
right.
do you think Spooky has done more than one title per year? Like, are they going to
Well,
be able to do
technically,
this?
with Looney Tunes and Texas Chainsaw Massacre,
That's true.
yeah.
Same.
And they kept on saying it was completely different code.
Mhm.
It was only the Whitewood, and even the mechs were similar, but different parts, right?
Could they
So
reskin Evil Dead as Goonies?
they said they will never do that again.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, every game they're working on is supposed to be
Yeah.
unique.
It was a unique one? Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
they're kind of done doing that.
I see.
But Goonies would be great because
Mhm.
also Spooky, so far, right? They would be the company that gets all the movie assets for
Yeah.
Goonies and integrates it really well. So they're
Yeah.
gaining a really good reputation for theme integration.
Theme integration, yes. I mean, Evil Dead definitely proved that they were able to do theme integration. I still worry about the execution and the quality. So that's just what it comes down to Spooky, right? Like,
That one could be tough. That one could have issues because it's got the flipper bumper thing.
mhm, mhm.
And the hand is kind of at a weird angle. And they talked about it in the featurette of how they solved that problem when they came up with it. Let's make a not a bumper. What's it called? A right by the flippers, you got the
Slings.
slings. So it's
Yeah.
a sling flipper.
Mhm. Oh, yeah, yeah. Mhm.
So yeah, so could they get some weird geometry issues where I don't know. It looks cool. I mean, you got these return. The ball will either go to your hidden flipper, so you can bash the tiles and spell whatever Evil Dead and hit the hand. That's cool, but to get that angle, they had to come up with that design, and
Yeah.
it's new.
It's new.
It's different. So let's see what's
Yes.
next. What do we got?
All right.
Harry Potter. So this is. Do you hear you? I see
I
Jason Muha and Bekong. You both liked this post by Jersey Jack. So yeah, what do you
I
think of this
did.
post by Jersey?
Yeah, it was the best non-announcement ever by a company. Like, man, way to like tease in a perfect way, like what's coming, to your folks. And it just gives people like, hey, while you may want to spend on these competitors, like we have something in the bank that is going to be hopefully a banger of a title. I mean, Harry Potter is just one of the biggest franchises in the world. And if there was a company that was going to do it, I'm actually kind of excited what Jersey Jack can do with it. I really am. I think they can do a lot with the way they've done theme integration and with some of their recent titles. Like Avatar was a pretty good movie theme that they did. And you're going to understand most of the Harry Potter references. Like I think that's the thing that gives Avatar the hardest chance. Is like not a lot of people understand the world of Avatar. Like you may have seen the movie once, but I think everybody understands the four houses of Harry Potter. Like it's going to be so easy for some casual person to come up and be like, this is freaking awesome. I want to be a Slytherin or a Gryffindor. Like you start the game picking your house and then slaying and learning wizards. Like, it's going to be so good.
Yeah. So I looked up this one. So when you do a search for Harry Potter pinball, one of the I was actually when I was grabbing pictures for you do a Google search image search, because you're making thumbnails or whatever. And so I was looking up Harry Potter, just Harry Potter. I think just to grab this 8-film collection, and Google presented a Carrie Hardy thumbnail. And I was like, "Oh, what's this?"
Already,
I
interesting.
click on the thumbnail. No, it's 4 years ago, and Carrie Hardy is talking about the release of Guns N' Roses. So I watched the video, and he's talking all about Guns N' Roses, about it's coming out, and then towards the end, he was like, so there's a rumor that Harry Potter is coming to Jersey Jack. So this 4 years ago, and he says in there, he goes, "It will be amazing. Hopefully it's not Stern. Hopefully it is Jersey Jack that does it." And then he goes, "But I don't think it's going to be for quite some time. So be patient." And so here we are 4 years later, and Jersey Jack basically announced that they got Harry Potter coming out. And they did it, like you said, the same day that Dungeons and Dragons was announced to kind of ride that wave of new pinball news.
Yeah, it was a smart way to do, and they've not done other big trade shows. Like Stern has been going to big conventions that aren't pinball conventions. Because I guess being a smaller manufacturer, like in the premium side of things, they only do like one release a year, right?
Right.
It was Avatar last year. Before that was Elton John. So they're kind of just riding. Like before that was Toy Story. It was just like it's one title per year. This is a big one. And I played Wonka. I played Wizard of Oz. And so from a movie standpoint, like those are fun tables. Like I enjoyed both of those tables. Like, but the problem is they're very expensive, and you don't see a lot of them on location as much as you do Sterns. That's like my only worry. But I think people, this at a good location, like any casual person
Yeah.
would love to play Harry Potter pinball, I think.
I'm happy about. Yeah, Des Moines doesn't get as
Mhm.
much as like the limited editions or the premiums or like Ace Kogi like you have.
Mhm.
But our local operator, he does get every Jersey Jack that comes in. And he
Nice.
has 2 arcades. So one has Avatar, one
Mhm.
has Elton John, and he's the one. Like I've told you before, the
Mhm.
one he's kept throughout all of it
Mhm.
is dialed in
Mm.
because like the tournament
Tournament
players
players,
are like,
they
don't get
love
rid
that.
of that. We're like, yeah, it's fine for. They recently got rid of Toy
Mhm.
Story.
Yeah. Mhm.
It kind of broke down. They're like, okay, we're gonna pull it back.
Mhm.
Guns N' Roses was gone. It's been gone for a while actually.
Yeah. But
Um,
it's gonna be fun. I mean,
uh,
they fixed their flipper issue. That was another kind
yeah,
of complaint on Jersey Jacks, right? Like they didn't the flipper strength wasn't as great, but
that's
both
right.
Elton John
Elton
flips
John.
pretty well.
Yeah.
Avatar flips pretty well. So I
I
mean,
got
I
some
think the last
kits to upgrade the. I've been thinking about
no.
dialed in would be a great one to get for
Yeah.
a trade or something like that.
Okay. You do like
And
those
then do the
obscure
upgrade.
ones.
I love dialed in. It's so good.
Yeah.
It's like a Star Trek. I
You
think
still like Galactic Tank Force? Is that still in your rotation of
that's
games you
one
play?
I would trade. I still
Yeah.
have it, but
Yeah.
I don't play it a lot.
Yeah. No GTF for you.
Yeah. So
Mhm.
speaking of
Mhm.
stealing the thunder,
Mhm.
trying to ride that pinball announcement wave,
Mhm.
Jersey Jack was not the only company that was trying to ride the coattails of Stern.
Mhm.
Another one was Padretti Gaming.
Mhm.
So Padretti, they're newer to coming out with pinball machines. I think they're an Italian company, and they have the planetary pinball license, similar to Chicago Gaming Company having license for some of those old Bally Williams games.
Mhm.
A game that they came out with this year was Funhouse. You can get the what do they call it? The Funhouse Classic Edition for I
Mhm.
think it's $7,400, and then the Funhouse Limited Edition, which is a completely different artwork package. I think that one's about 10 grand. But these are remakes of the original. They have a DMD color screen on it, kind of more like your remakes for Attack from Mars and Medieval Madness, Cactus Canyon, that type of stuff. And you've played one, right? I have not played the Funhouse remake. I've only played the original Funhouse.
Yeah,
What do
so
you
I
think of it?
I did get to play it at Expo, like, and you probably just didn't get back to that far side of it. Like, I don't
Yeah.
think their booth had like great presence, but they did have a giant like monkey that was banging cymbals. You probably walked by it. Travis from Pinball Company was there talking about it. So the Pinball Company is the distributor for Padretti,
Mm-hmm.
and I learned that they actually were also consultants to kind of help them with some of the remake updates. And so it does have kind of code to play the different versions of the game and a couple of different updated mechs that were in it too. So I got to release that video because he described more of the changes. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it's cool to see that Pedretti kind of sneakily said, there's a lot of magic themed stuff happening in
That's
2025,
right.
right?
Yeah, and so this is what they tweeted, or this was a Facebook post yesterday by Padretti Gaming.
Mhm.
Happy New Year, and people are pointing out that okay, if you read, their picture there,
Mhm.
2025 is going to be magic, and so you're thinking theater of magic because it has the word magic in it, and you kind of look at the pictures. But Kaneda, I was listening to his podcast, and I was sold on like, oh my gosh, theater of magic, which like we were talking about before. A lot of these remake titles are the same titles that are coming to the Act Games Legends 4KP through Zen Studio. You can see, right in here we got.
Mhm.
Am I zooming the right thing? I'm not zooming the right thing. We have Funhouse right here, which is a Williams game. That's what we were just talking about, Funhouse with the Padretti remake. There is the Theater of Magic, which is people are talking about being potentially Padretti's next title, Theater of Magic. But what Kaneda, a podcaster, was saying was it could be not just that, like they have Funhouse already, but it could be 3 potential titles that are kind of synonymous with this thumbnail. So it could be, what was it? A Tales from Arabian Night, which is basically like Aladdin. I think it came out like around the same year. I always had theories, but I haven't heard anyone say this. Like Tales from Arabian Night, was that just they failed to get the Aladdin license, but they wanted
Mhm.
the carpet? So if you look at it, there's in this picture, there is a magic carpet. So
Mm.
okay, ooh,
Mm.
maybe it's Tales from Arabian Night. Then you got Theater of Magic, and then what was the third one? Oh,
Circus Voltaire. That's
Circus
right.
Voltaire.
Yeah, so that's what Jason Muha is saying in there. So I was trying to look at the pinball machines, like all three of them, to see if they have like the frame kind of as a hidden theme thing there. And like the closest one
Mm.
kind of feels like Theater of Magic kind of has that like similar-ish looking frame. So let me pull this up so you can kind of see
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
So if you see that frame that's on the Happy New Year, it's going to be Magic. And then you look at that kind of frame in the
Oh,
back
yeah, yeah,
glass
yeah.
area, right? It's like it's similar enough, but a little different. Kind of has that theme for it. Because if you look at the other titles, like here is our Tales of the Arabian Nights, right? Like, yeah, it could be magic theme, but it doesn't have that theme that was going there. And then the last one was Circus Voltaire, which is kind of like this green purple theme. But I think based on that picture that you were showing, it kind of matches that it could be in that same vein. So I think Theater of Magic between the three would be the one that makes the most sense. It's like
Yeah,
it's
I
too on
think
the
so.
nose to not just make it be
Any
that.
of them would be amazing.
Yeah.
Some people in previous streams and comments have talked about, like which one of these games, is great. I'm like, all of them are great. All of these, basically, if Zen has done
Mhm,
a Williams remake, it's a great game. And then
mhm,
so if one of these companies is remaking it,
mhm.
this is where you go find out if any of your local arcades buy any Padretti or buy any Chicago Gaming, and you beg them to
Yeah.
bring this into the arcade.
Mhm.
Theater of Magic, we played together. Was that Vegas, I want to say?
Yeah, I forget where, but like this is a fun
I
title that
fell in love with that
I
game.
played a lot of it on on Pinball FX. Like I
Okay.
played a lot of virtual versions of Theater Magic, and it's a very fun game. Like bashing the box, and there's like hidden locks and things like that. There's a lot going on in this game. So DMod was saying that like there's a new out package, kind of like Funhouse, so it kind of makes the most sense. I would bet if I had to put money on the three of them, Theater Magic sounds the one.
Then we played Circus of Voltaire
Yeah, at
in Expo.
Expo. Yeah, at
Fell
the
in love with that game too. We've had
Voltaire is a very fun game.
so many wow moments.
You could also play that on Zen Pinball too. So that's
Yeah.
all these games again. That's where I fell in love with them for the first time. Was like playing them. Like, oh, so when I see them in the wild working, because again, these pinball titles all came out in the '90s, right? Like
Right.
25 years later, plus 30 years later. Some of the machines aren't in the best shape. Some people were saying in the chat like they go to locations and sometimes they're not in the best shape, and then it's not a great
Right.
experience, right? And so, yeah,
I don't think I have played the Arabian Night game. Now that I
Tales
think
of the
about it.
Arabian Nights.
Yeah.
I've played it like once or twice, but I think I played it more virtual pinball than anything. Like it's not on location a lot. Like Totan is not on location a lot.
Yeah, I'm looking at it. I'm like,
Mhm.
so that's 26. I've
Mhm.
only made it to 26 then. John Papa
Mm.
Duke. All right.
All right.
Okay. Let's see. What do we have next in the slide? So then there's this rumor that American
Oh,
Pinball
American.
is doing
Mhm.
Cuphead. Now this could be interesting because again, we don't want any pinball company to fail, but any one
Mhm.
company that might deserve it is American Pinball
Oh.
because I'm not trying to be mean, but
Mhm.
like, I mean, they've laid off people. They're coming out with titles that don't really make sense. Barrio, we played that at Expo.
Mhm.
Wasn't the most exciting game that we've ever played. The theme's not great. The
Yeah.
table's not great. Galactic Tank Force, I own that one. I mean, I got it at a deal, So I'm
Mhm.
sitting here looking, oh, these are 10 grand brand new, and then
Mhm.
I get it for half that price. And I was like, oh, and I enjoyed it when we went to a couple places that had GTF. But owning it, man, it's so weird. Like, okay, so this is what you can do in the game. Like, I don't have it down, but like, yeah. In Galactic Tank Force, you spell air, and then you go into the corner. There's magnets in it. There's like 3 magnets in it. It's pretty cool. That's nice. But you can kind of probably play it like if I play it 10 times, there's this magical thing that'll happen where you can it's a physical ball lock, right? You go up the left ramp and you can physical ball lock. That'll open a multi-ball. you can get another multi-ball by just hitting the pop bumpers. So the
Mm-hmm.
pop bumpers are like these nuclear reactors. And so if a couple balls get back there, they will go red, and then that will launch a multi-ball. The
Mm-hmm.
moment you're in a multi-ball, you can just start
It's crazy.
drumming
Mm-hmm.
the tank. And I've gotten a billion several times easily by just getting 3 multi-balls in a row. And I'm like, the third multi-ball, I'm like, why did I get another multi-ball? Like, I don't even know why. It's like I got 3 multi-ball, then I got the nuclear multi-ball, and then a third one come, and I have like 6 balls, and all of a sudden I have a billion. And I'm like, this is amazing, I got a billion. And I'm like, but it feels so undeserved. Like, and then you play the next game, and it's like you only get 90 million. And it's like,
Yeah. It's not consistent enough, is what
No.
you're saying from a game standpoint.
No.
Yeah. What's the best American pinball game that I've played? And it's similar where I don't know how I did it, but I got like grand champion was Hot Wheels. I played Hot Wheels
Oh, yeah.
and I was getting into this red line multi-ball where like the whole thing just stops and you're like, what did I do? And then all of a sudden it starts up again and you're in this like crazy multi-ball. But it's also one of those like really high highs that you don't know how you get there and then kind of like trash games. But that's probably like the best American pinball game that I've played. Galactic Tank Force. I still can't get over how they just use 3D printed parts and never
Yeah.
finished that game. Like I can't understand how a commercial company made that cost of a like what the price of a machine and not to have like sculpted molds or even just painted, right? You could have easily even just 3D printed it, but sanded it and painted it down. Like, oh, it just kills me when I see that still. Anytime I see one on location, that's the part that drives me nuts.
I did have one renewed excitement for GTF. When I got it used.
Mhm.
It didn't have a ton of plays on it, maybe 2,000 or so.
Mhm.
And then, but the tank made this weird sound when the robot was trying to come out. It sounded like it was grinding gears. So I turned off the robot and I was like, it's fine. I just won't have the robot on. But it got annoying because there'd be a call out that would be like, did a robot just come out of that tank? But I had it disabled, so I was like, no, a robot didn't come out of the tank because your quality is so bad. And then I was emailing them, and they would not help me out. So finally, I emailed them again, and I was like, hey, I sent them a video. I was like, it's making this grinding sound. And yeah, they came back with me and said, put a washer under this screw, and it'll help the sensor. Yeah, and then now the robot works, and it actually only took, I went and grabbed a washer and put it in. It was like,
Yeah.
I think I fixed it in like 15 minutes after they told me the secret. And there was some renewed excitement because now the
it works
robot
how it should.
works and it's
Yeah.
a little bit more enjoyable.
I can't get over it. Like this mech right here, just being all plain gray and this saucer and this, like when it comes up, you can even see like they didn't even clean off the little
Right.
filament that they literally just came off the printer and they stuck it in. They didn't even sand it down. Like those 3 mechs, if they I think I would have given this a little bit more of a chance. Like it just feels so unfinished just to have those. They even have 3D printers where you can have different filament colors and it can 3D print already in layers and make it look a little bit more. So instead of this single thing. So
Yeah.
biggest complaint. They did spend too much money on what's her face, Sonya Blade, though. So
Oh, really?
Do you enjoy? I don't know. Do you enjoy the acting in the Galactic Tank Force? Like
She's
story?
all right. It's
Yeah?
the go to the lab guy. He's in a
that guy's
white
annoying.
coat, you know,
Yeah.
and he's super corny.
Yeah.
He's a little much. I wish you could dial him. Like he's okay, you know. But I just wish you could like, hey, could you have that guy call out just a little bit less?
A little less. Yeah. Impressionoia. Good
yeah.
stuff. Have you ever played the tank mode version? Would you ever do this?
Yeah. When we were at Expo, they had the tank one there.
They had so
And
many.
and I played it and got a really good score on it, and it still felt like I didn't deserve that score. That's why I don't like GTF. Every single time I play it, I don't feel like I'm learning anything in pinball. Like with X-Men, I'm like I told you, like I think in the last week I've cracked some code where I'm like I'm better with my flippers now because it's like Jack is saying, yeah, you're gonna drain your ball, but if you learn this little dance, like all the other experts have been telling you that you gotta don't hit the flippers at the same time, but do this kind of like slap thing. Remember, there's that video by what's his name? Something Flips, Abe Flips. And he's like, even on the toilet, you need to be like going like this, flap like you're going to save the ball.
Get into muscle memory, right?
Yeah, you got to constantly go like this,
Yeah.
Yeah, Abe Flips is awesome.
There it is.
And X-Men, like, you can keep that ball going. It's so cool. It's almost like you're like passing between, because you're trying to slow down that ball, and it doesn't have slingshots like a normal game, right? So the left-hand side has a bumper that's a little higher, and then it has that loop part. And the moment, so like now I got it down where the moment the ball goes over there, I can tap the flipper up so it'll like kind of pass over to the other ball or to the other side. But it's not how any other game works. So you gotta have like an X-Men mode in your brain, like.
Yeah. So the next time we do a show, I would be really interested in talking to you about tournament strategies and playing in local leagues and tournaments, because I've been doing a little bit more. I know you have too. And I went to a recent tournament. I went to a Metallica launch party this past Sunday, and I was doing really good. I was like playing with some of the best players, and then I just had 3 games that were terrible and then dropped me way back down. So staying consistent is probably like the hardest thing. But I was watching some of the best players, and they do some crazy things. Like, do you know the move where you're just trying to get it? You're flipping it off the edge till it goes up the in lane of the other bumper. Like you're just cradling it from both sides.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's insane. And who's doing that consistently? Like, there's so many little fun things.
Like on Foo Fighters, like if you know that move,
so you can hit the bumpers on the side.
Hit the target shot.
I gotta practice that because he was doing that on a table where you had to hit the in lane, so it lights up a spinner, and then the spinner was getting 10,000 points. And it's one of those older titles where that's all you got to do. You just got to hit the in lane, hit that spinner, and rip it, and then it just gives you like, you got 200,000 points, and you're gonna win the title. So yeah, let's talk tournament strategy.
Let's do that. So next week we're going to be at CES. Yes. So we'll be talking about probably Dungeons and Dragons.
We'll probably be talking about that. Yeah.
And
so
then
next time on your show, then we'll do that. Then next time we'll talk tournament strategy things. So 2025 is going to be a banger year for pinball. Maybe some arcade stuff too. We'll eventually talk some arcade things. I think in next episode we'll probably be talking both Dungeons and Dragons and also whatever we got happening for the home arcade space. There's going to be some titles. Are you excited to see what Media One Up has? Is that going to be part of the show? Yeah.
You can cover it. I'm not covering anything Media One Up. So, if you guys came here for home arcade, you'll get it whenever B's talking about it, right?
It's
not that I'm
pinball.
All pinball. It's just I'm sorry, but those companies are so toxic. Like I truly believe that there's great people in this community, just none of them work for any company. And so I just don't want to be a part of any of that, right? And then all of the creator toxicity where it's like, you cover this or don't cover this, don't care, go away, leave me alone. I'm going to talk about whatever I want to talk about, and I'm specifically not going to talk about things that trigger you because I'm tired of it.
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking. Anyway, if you've enjoyed this podcast and you love B and I, hit that like and subscribe and hit a 1 in the chat to make B feel good about himself.
Oh, thank you, Justin. You make me feel good every time we talk. This is fun. I mean, we've been able to talk more about, things that excite us. And I think you too, people want to see things that excite you. You don't want to talk about things that you kind of don't have a passion for. And lately, we've been playing a lot more. And again, it's just one of those things where you don't have to own a pinball machine. Don't do it. Right? I would say don't let that be your first foray into it. Go to Pinball Map, spend $1 or $2, enjoy the games. And even I see Biggie D, who was here at one point, I remember him saying like he doesn't think he's going to be a pinball person, but I think this past year he's been enjoying it more. So I think anybody, if you give it a chance, you'll see why it is one of the most exciting things that you can do in the arcade and pinball space is get out there and play.
Thank you guys so much. We don't love you. Bye.
Bye. Take care.